Welcome to the first 100 days, a show for revenue practitioners by revenue practitioners, giving you unscripted access and tips to help you navigate any new transition or initiative, both in life and at work. I would love to hear from you, like your top 3 lessons that you learned in building effective sales teams.
I've been very fortunate to be part of and building some truly phenomenal teams, both at large companies, Fortune 100, and at small companies. Everyone out there in sales and marketing will know building teams is hard. Building teams is really hard. No matter what stage of the company it is hard. And I've definitely made a lot of mistakes and I've learned a lot of lessons. There's lots of them, but let me try to narrow them down to the 3. And I think I'd go with consistency, talent development, and leading by example. I know every one of those sounds like a platitude that is, some panacea that everyone talks about. But they're basics and they're critical to growth of any team. So let me start with consistency. If you are going to scale or you're going to teach anybody anything, you have to be clear, easy to follow, and super simple. You need process and structure that is so simple that not only my 2-year-old daughter could follow, but it needs to be simple enough for my 2-year-old daughter and all of her preschool classmates who are 2 to follow as well. That's how simple it needs to be. And for you to have any chance to scale, and by scaling, I mean, if you want to hire 40 to 60 people a quarter, you need to have a process in place where you can go to 40 people and say, here's what you need to do, here's when you need to do it, and here's the process exactly. I realized this early on in my career. When I first start any job, first thing I do is I go around and I ask a bunch of questions. I just ask questions. I'm like, how do you forecast? How do you generate pipeline? What's hiring like? What's your career development? What's our 360 feedback? All these things. And it'd be amazed to me for simple things like pipeline. You come from marketing, people in sales all know pipeline. How do we identify pipeline? What's the definition of pipeline? And from 5 people, I'd get like 60 answers, right? So I learned real early on, you have to be consistent, it has to be simple, and it has to be something everybody can follow. That's consistency. Tip 1. Tip 2, developing talent. Now, this is an age-old thing. Do you go hire the best talent, or do you go develop talent, or both? When I go to a company, first thing I see is they have a product roadmap. All right? Then they have a customer expansion plan. And then they talk about how they're going to improve market share. All of those things are standard across almost every company. What they don't have, and what shocks me, is when I go into a company and I say, what's your ideal employee profile? Ideal employee. If you had an employee, the perfect employee, skills, traits, background, values, what's your ideal? And most people look at me like I'm crazy and they'll have no idea. So it's really hard to hire and develop talent if you don't have a very specific idea of what you're looking for, what works best at your company. Now, I remember when I was hiring a revenue team, and then I noticed one of our field marketing directors was phenomenal. He was so customer focused. He was super hardworking. He was committed to success, and he could recite numbers and calculations and the real value of our company. He turned into not only my number 1 sales rep, he turned into my best sales manager ever. That's developing talent, right? That's a whole lot faster and a whole lot better long-term for your company than hiring someone from the outside who's a rising star, which you need to train all over.
That makes sense. I want to double click into that one before you move to the 3rd point. So
sure.
I love that. That's going to be my new thing, ideal employee profile, because we, like every company right now, going through the hiring. Do you think the ideal employee profile would change from company to company or stages? Do you see any kind of common thread?
I think it's both. I think your ideal profile from company, because every company is different, and the stage of the company is different. What I don't think a company will change, and which is why you can go from stage, is what are your values as a company, right? What are your goals? What are your mission? Who embodies each of those values and traits, and how do you hire for that?
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I mean, I guess selfishly, I'm using this interview also to pick your brain here. So like, for example, companies like startups like us, where we in the early stage and the values and the cultures and the principles are still being formed. things that we think that our top three right now could change. I don't think it would, but companies evolve and grow up. So what advice would you give for companies like our size right now looking to hire the ideal employee profiles?
I think you really have to, while you might change, I think what certain things won't change. Your market. Like, what are you doing? What is your vision, right? What is your mission statement, right? Your values might fluctuate a little bit, but I have a hard time believing you will scrap every value you have now and start with a brand new set of values in 2 years. So all companies come with a mission and a vision and some values, and I think those might refine over a few years, but I don't think they'll change. So I would hire people to match that. You can teach skills. I can teach someone a methodology. I can teach someone a product. I can teach someone, how to build pipeline. Here's what we do. What I can't teach someone is, hustle. I can't teach passion. I can't teach, vision of our company. Does that make sense?
Yep, and grit too.
Grit. One of my favorite words. Grit. We call it hustle internally. Literally hustle. I can't teach you hustle, right? Yeah. But I know it when I see it.
That's true. All right, so consistency, develop talent, and the third one.
Last one, and probably the most critical. I feel the most powerful tool any of us has as leaders, and everyone's a leader. Even if you're an IC, or if you're a hiring manager, or if you're a CEO, anybody is a leader. I think the most powerful tool you have is to lead by example, right? I know that as a leader, every action I do or don't do is not just watched by my team, by my company, but it's watched by everyone in the market. How I act on your podcast, things that I say or don't say, right? Everybody is watching what you do as a leader. And I think that's the most powerful example you could have. I was just in Toronto, right? And we have a great, phenomenal BDR team there. Phenomenal BDR team. We do a monthly call blitz. And I thought it was a great idea to go and join them for the day. The whole team did it. Everyone in the company. CEO did it. I did. We called blitz day. Now, it was a little embarrassing because I didn't get any meetings. But I sat right there making calls with them during their call blitz. And I want to show them that I'm willing to do anything to help them. And I would never ask them to do something I wouldn't do myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you were sitting in the trenches with them. That's awesome. That's incredible. More sales leaders need to do that because call blitz are challenging.
I don't tell you. I don't know. I didn't get one meeting out of that. It's a little embarrassing. Probably shouldn't. I should have came up with a better story. Now everyone knows I went 0 for the day on my call blitz. I'll do better next time, team. I promise.
If anything, then everyone's going to target your BDRs because apparently your BDRs are really good. So be on the lookout.
I have a great BDR team. I would target them. I don't blame them. I have a phenomenal team. I would target them.
That's amazing. That's great. So I want to circle back on the consistency because I think it is not mentioned very often, but it's something that I guess everyone always get attracted to the shiny new project, right? But it's something but it's a consistent something that you have to keep repeat over and over and over until it get internalized. I guess in the simple terms, even in the sales enablement side, talking about the target persona you're talking to, the pain points they're going through, everyone thinks that they know, but I'm pretty sure if you go survey on the floor, then everyone would describe your target persona differently. Did you have any tips to ensure that consistency stays consistent at your company?
Yeah, and it's interesting, Trinity, that you bring up sales enablement. I think sales enablement and sales ops are often the secret weapons for a revenue org that are overlooked. I have a phenomenal team in sales enablement and sales ops, but let me give you sales enablement in terms of consistency. When I joined Enable, I said, take me through a normal AE. Just take me through your onboarding. What happens, right? So I showed up my first day, and I went and I met with someone and said, okay, we're here to train you on it. And they pulled up a Google sheet that had 4 lines on it. And it had one of the lines was the company website. And that was the onboarding and training. And it took maybe 40 minutes. And I was like, that doesn't seem great to set someone up for success. So our sales enablement team is all about consistency and structure. And let me explain what I mean by that. The sales enablement team is before you even get to our company, once you get hired, before you get to company, you will get a screenshot of your first 2 weeks. In your first 2 weeks, every day by hour, exactly what you're doing and what's expected of you. Literally, the first 2 weeks. Every single person that comes into our org goes through the first 2 weeks. They have a welcome message. They have, here's some pre-reading on the company, and here's what's expected of you for the next 2 weeks. And then after that, they get another one for 2 weeks. Their first month is scripted, consistent, simple, easy to follow. Everybody does it. Once they come out of that, everyone understands what we do, how we do it, and the methodology we use. So that's where consistency begins. Sales enablement, onboarding.
That's amazing. Has that changed, or how have you guys adapted it for the remote world now?
Everyone's had to change for the remote world,
yeah.
right? Everything about the remote world is changing. I often wonder, when we all went into the pandemic, I'm sure everyone talked about how everything was better in person. And I would say that's true for the most part. Many things are better when you're in person. Many things. But I also think there's a lot of advantages to the remote world that we've come in, especially when it comes to scaling and hiring. What I've noticed is, there's definitely nothing better than coaching one-on-one in person. And there's definitely nothing better than being able to do the ad hoc coaching. When you're on the floor or you're walking and you hear someone speaking or a meeting and you walk up to somebody and you say, how about this, or why'd you do it this way? You can't replace that in person. But what I think the pandemic has taught me, at least, is that you can utilize both. What virtual has really done and really made an impact for us is we're able to do training more often, right? We're able to get out to everybody versus scheduling, flying in. So we're able to provide more training. We're able to provide more as-you-go training, right? Videos, coaching, training, go as you go along. And then we're able to create more trainings as well, all because it's virtual. So while I think that certain things are better in person still, we've really benefited a lot from doing things virtually, and I think we've got great tools to do it.
That's true. I actually didn't think about it, because I keep thinking about how the ad hoc, you passing by someone's desk and hey, you could have said that line better.
Yeah.
But it's true. I did not think that virtually now you can do more training and people can learn at different time now. They don't have to be they basically put their life on pause to fly to the headquarters to do training.
Yeah, exactly. And think how often more you can do it. I'll give you a perfect example. During that call blitz, if I was sitting at home, I would have done even worse than I did. I got lots of coaching from my VDRs. Team, thank gosh. Next time I'll do better. But at home, I never would have been able to gotten that.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, that's so interesting. So outside of performing more, doing more training virtually, do you have any advice for, could be sales leaders or just managers in general, to provide coaching and enabling your team to do better, especially in the remote world we're in right now?
For me, when I talk to managers or leaders, I think of, ways you can always be coaching, right? And for me, coaching is not do it once or do it twice or do it structured. You have to have structured training, right? And we have structured training. We have a dedicated one-on-one for every manager. We have dedicated career. We put a structure in place for all of these come in. What I will always say, I feel, is you can never have enough coaching, right? And you can never have enough coaching immediately. I'm guilty of this too at times. I'll be on one customer call with a team, and then I'll have 5 other customer calls before I go back to that team 3 days later. I think you always have to provide feedback, good and bad, right? You always need to provide feedback, and you need to ask for feedback. I asked people last night, did I do well on that call? Did I accomplish what you needed? Was there anything I missed? Should I have done something better? And then I try to do the same, but it has to be immediate. It has to be both ways. You have to ask for it, and you have to provide it as well.
Do you document it somehow? So the reason I'm asking is because I'm thinking whether I personally need to change structure. So we started out with this Google Doc where we capture every one-on-one or any kind of conversation. So we have kind of a trail of what we discussed. Otherwise, by next week, I'll forget everything. So I wonder if I should use that same method for providing coaching and feedback and document it there. I don't know if you have any tips or practical tips that you've done that you've seen working.
Trinity, you've had a lot of success. I don't think think you forget anything. What we do is we do a one-on-one document, and so we both can, input it into it. And by the way, I do this with my team. I do this with my CEO. Every leader on my team does this. This is standardized. So we do a one-on-one that we go to. I think it's impossible. I shouldn't say impossible. It would be really challenging to document every piece of coaching you did if you called and said, hey, I think we should do this on a proposal, or I think you should say this, and then you send an email. So I think it would be hard. I think you have to do the structured, which is the career and the weekly one-on-ones, but doing the ad hoc coaching that you do, if you're doing a lot of it, which I think everyone should, it'd be pretty hard to document all that.
That's true. Since you mentioned about the career, do you think like in the old days, pre-COVID, everyone does like a performance review maybe once a year or once every 6 months? Do you think that changes now? Like, is it more frequently? Is it less frequently?
Pre-COVID, that's funny. Old days were pre-COVID.
Old days.
It was only 2 years. I've always believed in careers. I believe a company owes every single employee a career roadmap. I believe you owe it to that. Every person at our company has a career roadmap. Now, I believe it's the responsibility of the employee to execute on that and decide what they want to do, and it can change. We have always had minimum quarterly career one-on-ones. These are 45 minutes to an hour and 15, everyone on my team, set aside well in advance. It's for the whole year, it's planned out, and it's to talk about nothing but these. And we have a template that we follow, skills, areas for improvement, long-term they want to do 5 years, short-term they want to do 1 year, how they want to get there, what they might want to do. You can't possibly help anybody or support anyone if you don't know them well enough to know what they want to do this year or next year or beyond.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great. Oh my gosh. We just hired an HR manager, and I cannot wait. I'm like, have we had that template that Jerry talks about so we have more structure?
Yeah, at Trinity, HR, we just hired a head of people, a phenomenal leader that I've had the privilege of working with before, so I'm so lucky that we got her. I often see that a lot of leaders will say, hey, this is the responsibility of HR, or hey, HR, can you do this? Development of a team is the number one responsibility of every leader. How your team performs and their development. So, even if it's a, two-page document with a couple bullets, Trinity, I would recommend you get started now.
Oh, yeah, mine right now, it's just like words and words and words and just doodling everywhere. It just needs something a little bit more like presentable.
I'll send you mine. Just remind me. I'll send you mine. Happy to.
I will ask you for it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to be mindful of time, so I'm going to ask you, I have two more last questions.
Okay.
I guess the first one would be, what has been your all-time favorite sales play and why that's the case?
Okay. Gosh, sales plays are so hard. I wish I had a panacea where I said, just do this sales play and everyone will be successful. It's the company, the sales cycle, the market, the ASP, the industry. There are so many different ones. I'll share one that I had recently that was shocking to me, surprising recently. So everyone says, or a lot of companies say they're customer-centric. Right? We're focused on the customers, we're customer-centric. So one of my plays was, I said, okay, for an entire week, a whole week, all of our communication, our outbound, our social media, everything will never mention our company or our products. Never mention. Because what I noticed is every time I go into a company, any company I've worked at, the first 10 slides of a 20-slide document is, here's where we started, here's how many customers we have, here's how much funding we have, here's our great products, right? And all that's fine, except all customers really want is, how are you going to solve my problem? How fast will it take you? Can you actually solve the problem? So I was shocked how hard it was when I tried to go a week with doing and it was hard for me, really hard for me, without naming our company or not naming our products and doing nothing but focusing on the customer and a customer problem or challenges. So I would I recommend everyone? Try that sales play. Try it for a day and see how you do. If you're a whole team, try your marketing team, your BDR team, try not mentioning your company or your products and focus on just your customers and their problems.
So I'm trying to, my wheels are turning. I'm like, okay, if we want to do it next week. So essentially what you're saying from the marketing side, then all of our advertising will be about the pain points that the potential customers have. And then for sales, then in all these calls, you don't mention our products or our name. You discover, you basically talk about them.
Yeah, here's your customer, here's your problem, here's what will happen if we solve the problem.
Interesting.
See what a result you'll get. I was shocked. It was really hard for me.
I'll give that a try. We're small enough that we can actually try it next week, so I might.
Yeah, let me know how it goes. You tell me how that goes, and I'll send you my career development template.
All right. So my last question, and it's a fun one, easy one hopefully. What is your number one DIY life hack?
Number one. Okay. When I saw this, my mind started racing, and I was like, okay, there are so many life hacks in the world. I have kids, and my wife really likes wine. So do I. So let me give you two, if that's okay.
All right, go for it.
My 2-year-old, rolls around and jumps a lot in bed. So if you take a pool noodle and put it under the sheets on either side of her, she doesn't flip out of the bed. So that's my number one. If you have kids that roll around in bed a lot, that's number one.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And if you like wine as much as I do, and I'm from wine country in Northern California, and my wife do, you'll often get in the situation where you're coming home and you've got wine, but it's not cold enough. So wet a towel, wrap the wine in it, and then stick it in the freezer for 7 to 10 minutes. Perfect temperature for you. So I would recommend that, probably both in the same night. Pool noodle and the chilled wine.
That's a great one. And especially now that I am in Miami and it's warm all the time and I love wine, I will definitely use the second tip.
Absolutely, Trinity. I hope it helps.
Oh, this is great. Thank you so much. Just to wrap up the conversation, do you have any words of encouragement for revenue practitioners out there that are listening?
Yes. The first thing I'd say is the first 100 days is critical, number one, and it's important, but also I think it can be very impactful. And so what I'd say to all the sales and marketing and revenue leaders out here, I would just keep it simple, and I'd say believe in yourself. All right? I know that sounds simple, and I know it sounds crazy, but believe in what you've done. Believe in how you've done it. Believe that you got hired for a very specific reason. And there's going to be plenty of people out here who don't understand why you got hired, doubt your background, all that. Just believe in yourself and what you think will become.